Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
You're saying that you never told Senator Warren that a woman could not win the election.
That is correct.
Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election?
I am completely confused as to why it turned from Bernie Sanders saying I didn't say it to Elizabeth Warren being asked, what did you think when he said it? He says he didn't say it. So you turn to Elizabeth Warren and say, did he say it?
Bizarre.
That's the issue.
That was bizarre.
I mean, it's bizarre.
It was.
What the heck happened there? Are they listening? Because you got to listen when you do a debate.
Yeah.
And then take the question to the next candidate.
You just missed.
It was a miss.
A miss.
You were waiting to go.
A miss.
This is the story.
It was a miss.
That was not a miss. That was intentional. That was well negotiated before the debate began to make sure that Elizabeth Warren would not have to answer any questions about her lie. She is lying. And I cannot support somebody who looks me in the face. This is my number one reason for not supporting Pete Buttigieg, because Pete Buttigieg looks us in the eye and says that he has the most progressive campaign and that he really wants to do something good in Medicare for all who want it. The who wanted part means that we don't get anything. Elizabeth Warren is lying. And I've done my damn best. You know I have. Every single one of you know that I have done my best, my level best to be measured and to actually not just measured. I tried my best to want to support Elizabeth Warren. My first video about this, my first podcast about this election cycle was, I don't know if she can win because, you know, the lay of the land has changed. I don't know if she had the wherewithal to go up against Donald Trump. And then she came out with a series of plan after plan after plan. And I was like, well, this is the Liz that I always loved. This is the Liz that I wanted to run in 2015. Maybe she can. And then she kept her head to the ground and she kept working, putting out plans. I've got a plan for that. And she did. And she had a plan for Medicare for all. I'm like, you know what? I can rock with her. I actually can rock with Elizabeth Warren. I really considered her really to be my number one pick. I was just waiting to see. I'm just letting it play itself out. I've got some gripes with Bernie Sanders, so Elizabeth Warren would have been a really good place for me to land. And then she started wavering on Medicare for all, right? Then she couldn't bring herself to say to the American people that their taxes would go up, but their premiums would disappear. She couldn't say that simple line. And something began to, I'm like, why can't she just, why is she putting herself in this horrible position in order to maintain a deception? Right? But I was like, okay, we can work around that. Maybe she has a plan. Maybe she actually has a plan to get around taxes going up. And then turns out her plan to get around taxes going up is a process going to Medicare for all, where the end goal is Medicare for all. Then I'm like, okay, all right, well, let me consider, let me think about it, because, you know, her plans, she has plans for everything. But then she shifted gears in the last 48, 72 hours. And I can't support her. I cannot. Tom Steyer is my second pick. And this is wild because Tom Steyer is a billionaire. And the last thing that I want to do is support a billionaire, which is why I'm supporting the guy that I'm supporting. But Tom Steyer at least is talking straight to us. That matters. Don't you think? Number one, Elizabeth Warren, now she cannot win. Here's why she can't win. Not because she's a woman. That is the most infantile, juvenile, and insipid argument for anyone to suggest that someone else is making. Not the argument itself, right? The argument itself is basically non-existent. You're not going to find a single person in this country, damn near zero, who believe that a woman cannot win the presidency. What is insipid is the argument that you think that we don't support Elizabeth Warren because she's a woman. You are extremely intentionally obtuse. I'm going to be careful without using ableist language, but you are being disingenuous and you are weaponizing identity politics. This isn't identity politics. This isn't about the struggle of women. This isn't about the struggle of women to break the glass ceiling. This isn't about the struggle of women to get equal pay in this system. It's not about the struggle of women to come into parity with the male-dominated patriarchal society. It has nothing to do with that. Those identity politics matter. This is about you weaponizing identity politics to try to get a political advantage against the guy out front, the front runner. And that is a disingenuous argument that most of you know. You know that's what's happening because you saw it happening to Bernie Sanders in 2016. And so it's a disingenuous argument, and it is an argument that is intended on weaponizing. It is an argument that uses the weaponization of identity politics. And you know what? It's backfiring. It's backfiring spectacularly because nobody believes except for Bakari Sellers. And watch out for him because he's in the bag for Joe Biden. And we'll talk about Joe Biden in a minute. But nobody honestly believes that Bernie Sanders would sit there and tell Elizabeth Warren, the woman who lied to America about having Native American heritage, to get a political advantage. Nobody believes Bernie Sanders said this to her. See, I said it on yesterday's podcast. I said it. I said that she's going to have a poker face. But instead, what she had was a dealer who rigged the deck. She didn't have to have a poker face because Abby I forgot her last name. I believe I'm almost 100% certain she was the one who was asking the question at that point. But let's just say CNN. The CNN moderators did not follow up. And see, Mika and them, they're playing dumb this morning. They know that this wasn't a miss. Mika from Morning Joe, the clip that I just played, they were talking about, oh, it was a miss. It was a miss. Yeah, they missed that. It was bizarre. It was weird. They missed it. No, they didn't miss it. They intentionally set it up exactly the way that they did so that Elizabeth Warren would not have to answer the question, did he actually say this? And so she did not have a poker face. You don't have to have a poker face when you know the dealer is in your pocket. I can't support her. I can't. And any of my friends, listen, all of you, you do you. I'm not going to knock you for supporting her. But when I tell you I cannot support her and I have to vocally say it at this point, and that's my prerogative. You want people to leave you alone about your support for whoever you are supporting? Leave me alone about my support for whoever I'm supporting. But also, don't come in my mentions talking about my problem and my beef with Elizabeth Warren, because I have been her most vocal Bernie supporter. I've been the one who's keeping the audiences and telling everybody, chill. Let people have their space. Let people do their thing. Let people be who they want to support. In fact, you can still support who you want to support, but I cannot let a lie tarry. I cannot see this level of lie go unchecked, untalked about, untouched, unscathed. This level of lie. And if she will lie like this right here, you better goddamn well believe that she will lie about what she will really do when she gets in office. So I'm sorry, Liz, it is zero. I've got nothing for you. Nothing. And then whatever. Character is all that matters. Even character that is stubborn, but at least it's consistent. Bernie Sanders works my nerves. I don't like anybody in this race, but Bernie Sanders is the best option out of all of them because at least he is At least I have no doubt in my mind. Listen, I have a long laundry list of reasons to not want to support Bernie Sanders. I've given you probably only half of them. But when I look at this entire field, I look at it and say, who is going to actually do what they say they're going to do? Bernie Sanders, period. And then you know what? Tom Steyer. I actually believe Tom Steyer is going to do what he says he's going to do. And so that's why he's moved to my second pick. Elizabeth Warren's not even in my consideration. She's not even my third pick. She would be my pick before Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg. So I guess what's that? Who's up? Amy Klobuchar. Good God. Holy Jesus. Elizabeth Warren has moved below Amy Klobuchar for me. And I cannot stand Amy Klobuchar. Her humor is, I could see how miserable it was for her employees to work for her. All the reports of her being somewhat abusive to her crew. I could see, because if they have to suffer through her humor, that is a tantamount to abuse. But I'll take an Amy Klobuchar over Elizabeth Warren at this point. And you can go back to her the day she announced last year and a half ago. You can go all the way back there and listen to my episodes to now and see that this was not the natural conclusion of my evolution in terms of Elizabeth Warren. My evolution towards Elizabeth Warren has been one of I want to support Elizabeth Warren, because there are some things about Bernie Sanders' team, more specifically than Bernie Sanders. There are things about his team that I just can't get with. But at the end of the day, when I look and see who is going to do what they or say they're going to do, there's only two people on that stage that I actually believe are going to do what they say they're going to do. And Elizabeth Warren is not one of them. Bernie Sanders is the first, and Tom Steyer, the billionaire, who would have guessed it? He's speaking with conviction. He's speaking with clarity. And I actually believe him more than I believe Elizabeth Warren. And shame on you, CNN. Shame on you for rigging the deck and not even having the journalistic integrity to do a standard follow-up to get to the bottom of an issue. Instead, you painstakingly rephrased your question so that Elizabeth Warren would not have to be held to account to actually answer the question, did he or did he not say this, Senator Warren? Cowardice, deception, treachery, and I have no time for it. America doesn't, because that can't win up against a person like Donald Trump.
By the way, I've had private conversations taken to the press and totally manipulated for the benefit of the person who was sharing the story. This happens all the time. It's clear there's a misunderstanding, or Elizabeth Warren is focused on something that was said. And Bernie Sanders is not going to be someone who says, I don't think a woman could win. That's just stupid.
Right. It would not be smart.
You just wouldn't say that.
Also, Bernie went to her in 2015 and said, hey, I think you can win. I think you should run for president.
This is a terrible issue to bring up.
This is such small ball.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Well, all right. Let's flip the mood a little bit. So many of you are becoming patrons and increasing your pledges that it is increasingly hard for me to keep up. So if I miss anyone's name, please just hit me up on Twitter and let me know. Special thank you to Jeremy Good for increasing his pledge, doubling it twice in 24 hours. Thank you so much, Jeremy Good. Matthew Bourne, thank you for increasing your pledge. Matthew Newmeyer, thank you for increasing your pledge. Melissa Sugi, thank you for becoming a new patron. Welcome to the family. Bradford Henderson, thank you for becoming a patron. Welcome to the family. Angel Valadares, oh goodness, I just ruined that one. Thank you so much for becoming a patron, Angel. A special thank you to Gabriel Bazama. Thank you for becoming a patron. Welcome to the family. Nicole Espina, thank you for becoming a patron. Wow, you guys are rocking. Special thank you to Lee G for increasing your pledge. And David Bautista, thank you for becoming a patron. I still have more to go. William Learson's son. I am so sorry for what I just did to your name, my friend. Forgive me. Thank you so much for for increasing your pledge. You too can become a part of the patron party, our daily patron party, by going to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and either becoming a patron for the first time or just increase your pledge by $1. That's all we're asking for all of our current patrons, to increase your pledge by $1. I don't want to put anyone out of their way. So I think $1, if you can't, listen, seriously. As always, if you cannot afford to support the show financially, just listen to the podcast wherever you can hear ads. and listen to all the ads over and over again. Just let the ads play. Just let it play through the night while you're sleeping. Just let the show play through. But if nothing else, just thank you for listening, because there's power in our audience. Let's get back to this debate.
This was Elizabeth Warren's night. She needed to do something. And there was a banana peel sitting out there for Bernie to step on when it came to his comments about women. I think Bernie stepped on it and slid around. She knocked that moment out of the park. And I think that the only thing that's going to be remembered was how she handled that tonight.
I hope. Well, here's the thing. I was going to say I hope that I never become so successful that I lose my North Star, that I lose my integrity, and that I lose my voice. Right. So that, because a thing happens, Van Jones, who you're listening to there now, came from quite a radical beginning, relatively speaking. And now he's just in the tank for the establishment, because I guess he's a part of the establishment. He's as much the establishment as Neera Tanden, and Center for American Progress. And there's so much money that's just being slushed around between all of them that, I guess this is the new Van Jones, right? This is the new Van Jones. And, I just hope I won't become so successful that I lose the very reason I got into politics in the first place. Now, here's the catch. I won't become that successful. I won't. You know why? Because I have a bad habit. No matter what it costs, I just got to tell the truth as I see it. I'm not afraid of being wrong, but when I believe something, I will tell the truth. I will hold out as long as I can. My patience probably is just too long. For some of you, I hold out as long as I can, but then I gotta tell the truth. I gotta speak the truth the way I see it, right? And when you're a truth teller like that, I don't look at it as a badge of honor. Trust me, I've lost a lot of money. I've lost a lot of money in jobs and opportunities because of my bad habit of telling the truth. So I don't have to worry about ever being in the predicament of Van Jones, because I'm just going to call bullshit when I see it. And Van Jones, I know you follow me, so you probably won't follow me long after this, but that's bullshit. Nobody's going to remember anything positive about Elizabeth Warren last night. What they're going to remember is someone who's disingenuous, someone who hid behind the aid and the assistance of a CNN moderator who, instead of getting down to the nitty gritty and getting into the bottom of it, set her up to try to hit a grand slam. And everyone looked at it and was like, what just happened? That's what people are going to remember. The weird thing that happened when the CNN moderator became a co-conspirator with Elizabeth Warren. And it was clear to anyone who has a genuine bone in their body. Anyone who has a modicum of honesty in their body saw that bullshit last night. I don't even care about the Bernie side of the equation. I care about being insulted, looking me in the face and saying that this is journalism, that this is integrity, that this is being a properly moderated debate. Who the hell what kind of stupid fools do you take us for, Van? What kind of imbecilic, moronic Republican cretins do you think you're dealing with over here? You think that we can't see through the bullshit a mile away? And you're going to go, oh, I think this was a great night. You also thought that Donald Trump became presidential the night he fired missiles on that Syrian air base. What is wrong with you, man? What the hell is wrong with you? But anyway, at least you can pay your bills. At least you don't have to make, penny stretch to the end of the month. So maybe we're the dumb ones, but I'll go down telling the truth. I will go broke telling the truth. You could never get me. And I'm going to, just as a side note, because life does happen, I'm going to mark this episode and put it at the top of all of my emails. And I want you, I have to pin it on my Twitter timeline, and I want you to hold me accountable for this, just in case I start to waver when someone offers me $1 million a year. But I can never, with a good conscience, Ask questions like those moderators asked last night. You can never get me to pose a question with a fundamentally right-wing framing and ask it with a straight face, because I just can't do it. I can't. I would laugh at whoever my boss is and say, you know what? You asked that question because I'm not. Or better yet, what I would do is when I get on that, when the camera cuts on and the lights are on and we're live, I will ask the questions that I know to ask. You would never get me to ask the question like Wolf Blitzer did last night, asking about whether or not, why is it okay for Elizabeth Warren in this case to want the government to manufacture drugs in order to keep prices for the drugs low when most of America has no confidence in the government. What kind of framing is that, Wolf Blitzer? It is a Heritage Foundation framing. You would never get me to pose questions like that, and you'll never get me to sell out my conscience, man. Never. I might try for the sake of paying the bills. I will try, but it never lasts. Look at my track record. Every endeavor, and this, like, again, I'm not bragging about this. I'm just telling the goddamn truth. At some point, there is a threshold where I cannot take it, and I will not go any further, and I will not betray who I really am. And when you tell the truth like that, you pay the price. So good on you, Van, for being able to swallow the truth long enough to pay your bills. Meanwhile, let me borrow $100.
Joe and I listened to what Dick Cheney and George Bush and Rumsfeld had to say. I thought they were lying. I didn't believe them for a moment. I took to the floor. I did everything I could to prevent that war. Joe saw it differently.
Vice President.
I've got nothing to say about that clip. I just wanted to play that clip. It speaks for itself. Let me shift gears and talk about one last aspect of the entire conversation, and that being the resurgence of this argument of Bernie bros. What's going on here, honestly, is that the Democratic establishment needs people to go out to the polls and vote for them without ever questioning them, without ever questioning their funding sources, without ever questioning their policies, without ever questioning their motivations, without ever questioning who they're in bed with, without ever questioning the number of lobbyists that come to their doorsteps, without ever questioning why it is that we don't have a discernible difference between them and the Republicans on economic policy within the margin of error. They want people who are 100% comfortable with the way things are. That's what they want and that's what they need, but that's not what they're going to get with Bernie bros. And for the intentionally obtuse in my audience, or not in my audience, but those of you who are listening because you looked at the title and you looked at the hashtag and you want to find something to quote, right? For those of you who are doing that, Bernie bros obviously means everybody who supports Bernie Sanders. Because even if you're a black trans woman who supports Bernie Sanders, you're still going to be lumped in as a Bernie bro, or you're completely erased. You are entirely erased and they won't even acknowledge your existence so that they can maintain the narrative of the Bernie bro. Same shit that happened in 2016. And while I can care less personally about Bernie Sanders or about his team, or the cult of personality, I will tell you this about his supporters. They will ask questions. They will question the framing. They will question your motivation. They will look at your donors. They will understand why it is that you made one promise to the people, but you did something different when you got in office. And they will correlate that with who's your donors and which lobbyists have been coming to your doors. And so they ask questions that shake up the establishment. Women are asking those questions. Women for Bernie are asking the question. It just so happens that these people are in league and are all falling behind Bernie Sanders, right? So we could take Bernie Sanders completely out of the equation because these people were here before Bernie Sanders. Well, actually, no, Bernie Sanders has been here like forever. He's like 1,000 years old, but these people have been loosely connected before Bernie Sanders' revolution. And now this became a central rallying point. And the reason I'm bringing this up at all is because you need them, dummies. You would rather lose to Donald Trump just so that you can have a base that is docile, a base that doesn't threaten you, a base. And it makes sense, right? Because it is always about power. Even if Donald Trump wins again in 2020, the Democratic establishment still maintains its grip on their own personal power. But if you unleash Bernie Sanders' revolution of a ragtag team of misfits and people who know how to Google and people who understand how to ask questions and people who know how to go to open secrets and people who know how to read federal election FEC filings, that's the biggest threat. They don't even see Donald Trump as the biggest threat. They see Bernie Sanders as the biggest threat, not just because of Bernie Sanders, because, I mean, maybe he has 8 years left in him. He'll be gone soon enough. But because he has created a central location for all of the people who question the Democratic establishment to rally around and behind. And they cannot win without them. They, being the establishment, cannot defeat Donald Trump without this energy. And they have shown that they are willing to crush this energy in order to maintain their own personal hold on power. That's what's going on. This is the last thing I have to say about it. And this is about the race in general. Anyone, and I think I probably said the same thing yesterday, but damn it, I'm going to say it again. Anyone screaming about unity? You don't get unity by lying on one of the candidates. You don't get unity by ostracizing. And the same thing I told Bernie Sanders supporters. The same thing I preached to Bernie Sanders supporters since the beginning of the election cycle. It's the same thing that you better apply to yourself. That if you want anyone to unify around your candidate, you sure as hell better not make broad sweeping statements and accusations against the character, impugning the character of someone else's supporters. I still hold by that. But let me tell you something. All of these lies that are going around here, all of these distortions, all of this erasure of all of the women, the black women, women of color who support Bernie Sanders, and just the complete erasure thereof, all of it will make it that much more impossible for us to unify behind whoever becomes the nominee. And here's the thing. Without a shadow of a doubt, the people with the influence and the platforms who are doing this on behalf of Biden, Buttigieg, Warren at this point, they are doing it to maintain their personal grip on power and to maintain their personal checks. That's what's happening. At the expense of unification. And so I would say, you better check yourself. Look at yourself. Look at your side of the equation, because at this point, the people who have the authentic righteous indignation are the people y'all are trying to shut down the most.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.